the questions I often get from first home buyers is to run the numbers to see how they compare if they're buying their first home as an owner-occupied or if they're buying their first home as an investment property and they choose to rent-invest. Now, there's quite a few variables that come into this in terms of property selection, potential capital growth. There's a lot of, detailed things that come in down the track, but in this video, I'm simply going to talk about what your borrowing capacity is, and for first home buyers, more importantly, how much money you need to get into that property. So, in this example, I'm helping a client, currently lives at home, earns $100,000 a year, has no debt outside of a HEX debt, and has got a reasonable amount in savings, and they're trying to figure out what they can do to get into these properties. So, if they're buying an owner-occupied, the key things to remember are that one, if it's their first home, they will qualify, and it's under $600,000, they'll qualify for the stamp duty waiver. This is in Victoria, but it's similar in other states. That means they'll pay zero stamp duty on a purchase of up to $600,000, and in this instance, the client's looking to spend about $500,000, so they pay no stamp duty. If they were to buy this same property as an investment, they would pay full stamp duty, which would be approximately $25,000. So already as an investor, you need about $25,000 in additional savings in order to get into this property. The second thing, though, that the first home buyer buying an owner-occupied will potentially qualify for, though, is a first home guarantee scheme, which means if they earned under $125,000 last year as a single or $200,000 as a couple, and the purchased property is under $850K in Victoria, they would be eligible for a 5% deposit with no LMI. So in this example, and obviously if they've got an investment property, they wouldn't be eligible for this. So in this example, the first home buyer buying a $500,000 property in Victoria to live in would need a $25,000 deposit with zero stamp duty, zero LMI, and roughly call it $4,000 or $5,000 of settlement costs, which is conveyancing, land transfers, etc., etc. So call it $30,000 to get in the door of a $500,000 property. That same person who is a property investor, generally speaking, you're going to need roughly about a 12% deposit, otherwise it becomes very expensive. So instead of needing a $25,000 deposit, you need approximately a $60,000 deposit. You're also going to pay full stamp duty, which is another $25,000. So instead of needing $25,000, you need about $85,000, and you're also going to pay LMI, which depending on the bank is going to be $6,000 or $7,000. So while your borrowing capacity may be higher buying your first place as an investment property, the fact is, as an owner-occupied, assuming you qualify for the schemes, you'll need about $25,000. As an investor, you may need about $85,000 plus LMI.